For at least 5,000 documented years, traditional Chinese medicine has been mapping out the 12 major meridian passageways of your body. When one of your channels are imbalanced, disharmony, stagnated, deficient, or in excess, it's indicative of the beginning of symptomology. Symptomology for me, as I said in past videos, are gauges, just like a vehicle, and indications telling you that there's something off. Before there can be physical stasis, before there can be physical pathology, such as in your blood work, or something palpable, such as a cyst, a tumor, there must be an initiatory factor first, such as energy stagnation. And in Chinese medicine, they call it qi stagnation. Qi as in QI, or in Japan, they call it ki, Ki. Especially during these days with how imbalances from the outside world impacts us, and in return, we reflect back out our sickness. I want to offer one of many perspectives, which is medicine to some people, especially if people are so hardwired and hard-rooted in faith and belief. I'm speaking of the immovable people who are not able to move and start to create a level of education within their inner journey as to your belief systems, or one's belief systems, an inner truth or knowing. And not necessarily to hold on to the truth or knowing, but to use it as an oracle, as a way of observation. For even the truth that I create within myself collapses every single time I become conscious of it, because the truth is meant for you to become. And once you become the truth, and in a sense you forget. Like I forgot how scary it was when I used to drive a car, when I was learning how to drive a car. You become one with your vehicle, right? You work out, you go to the gym, you do Kung Fu, right? Maybe half your life. You're conscious of these creations of believing and knowing, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. But eventually something culminates within your inner essence of these layerings of your training. So it's probably a little bit more easier for an athlete or someone who works with yoga, qigong, kung fu per se, or even an acupuncturist, to go deeper with me as I attempt to unravel a stigma or a taboo. Joshua and his 12 disciples. Again, this is a perspective. Even truth that I speak doesn't belong to me necessarily. I don't hold on to it. As soon as I hold on to it, just like energy, then it becomes something that becomes a lesson necessary for me to observe. The lesson left unobserved, untouched, has the power to open up to pathology. See, pathology is when there's not a connection between A or B. Pathology, for example, if I have pathology of my elbow, right? Went to an acupuncturist, elbow didn't heal, right? Acupuncturists, in this example, will see that maybe I'm not arriving at a proper supply of oxygen, qi, and blood to heal the elbow. So just inserting needles at the elbow to see if it gets better may or may not make a difference. So the eyes of the alchemist or the acupuncturist, they're going to see as to the pathomechanics, as to what is disinhibiting your body's natural ability to heal from elbow pain, right? And to a kinesiologist, people who are studying now these days, their lymphatic system and their fascial tissue, you know that even the tongue is attached to your toe now. It's becoming like it's becoming a science that people becoming aware of. The science was always there. Hence, I'm able to speak about these things a lot more rapidly without creating like bigger videos where each thing that I needed to talk about in the past, I had to like kind of like describe and explain. I mean, I'd lose half the audience. And we're just talking about like a couple of years ago. So I've seen last 2 or 3 years a big evolution in people's inner ability to understand health and what it means to them. And going back to the 12 disciplines, Christ had 12 disciples. Christ was never separate from his 12 disciples. Christ, or Christos, or Yeshua, was the activator, the initiating factor for the 12 disciples, for they were chosen by Christ. But as I said in the past video, my last video, you could call them pawns, and he's the king. But even the king cannot move, as in the game of chess, if the pawns don't or do not initiate their movement. What I'm saying is that Christ, Joshua, and his 12 disciples represent, from this perspective, a continuum of Christ consciousness. See, they walked as one. So I see them as one monad, which is the one experiencing the 12, and vice versa, which Christ became the 13th, or the one experiencing the 3, the one experiencing the Trinity. Such as in Chinese medicine, as an attempt to connect many schools of thoughts, when you start looking at the history of how many medicines, such as the Vedic, Chinese medicine, or maybe even more modern allopathic medicine has started to change its tone a little bit, how they're attempting to make a connection with the past. They can't ignore it anymore. While the majority of humans are still honoring and worshiping the game of chess, or the chess pieces, while few are diving deeper to seek deeper instruction, because everything has a meaning and a purpose. So in Chinese medicine, you also have 12 major meridian passageways, each its own frequency, each attributed to an organ relationship to your body. Yin and yang paired organs, such as your kidneys and your bladder. Your kidneys are your yin, your bladder is your yang pair. And you have the first or the second largest meridian pathway happens to be the bladder channel. So you have 12 frequencies, 12 organs working synergistically, cohesively as one, whether you're conscious or not. Christ became the initiating factor, making his 12 disciplines, his 12 disciples, conscious to the best that he was able to. All 12 of them came already packed with 12 different disciplines, right? But the harmonics, the symphony of 12, making music together towards one mission statement, towards an activation and awakening of humanity, of billions of people, but with 12 and 1. We are the microcosm of what anything outside of us has been trying to show us all along, whether it's a person, whether it's scripture, whether they are the lessons that have nothing to do with what I'm speaking about. They offer mirrors or reflection of all possibilities of the human mind and human psyche to be able to, on a quantum level, make a connection between their humanity and the age-old question as to why am I here? Why did I incarnate here? And the thousands of religions that exist all have answers, and all answers have truths. All truths have distortions here because we live in a duality. The truth is, I stand as Marcus. The stronger the sun, the stronger my shadow. So another truth is that there are aspects of me within my psyche, my subconscious, that even I am unraveling and making conscious to me. See, that becomes my inner journey of not just a conversation, but my attempt, as I'm trying to unravel and explain something bigger, in saying that there is no separation between your inner journey and your outer journey. And once you make that connection palpable to you, then perhaps you will be able to understand the attempt I'm trying to make in today's video, as if you're able to wear more of a, I don't want to say a scholarly hat, but more of opening up your heart and seeing if you relate with an open heart, if you relate to the bigger message behind this. And obviously, if you don't relate to this, it's because you're spiritually indoctrinated. This message is definitely not going to be for you, but I invite you to watch and learn, or watch and observe. Judging is irrelevant to me. Agreeing or disagreeing with me in this phase of my life, I want to say it's irrelevant. Which means I have nothing to lose. I speak a truth as it comes between my mind and my heart connection, which is the most invaluable thing that we have. And the tongue is the only muscle that you can physically see. It becomes the orchestrator, or the one organizing the symphony between your mind and your heart, which brings me back to traditional Chinese medicine and the 12 disciplines, that once you become in coherence with your 12 disciplines, the bells and the whistles, as I mentioned before, of pain, disharmony, in theory, based on what I'm saying, they will reveal what they've been trying to tell you. No different than when you get a light turning on with your car when you need an oil change, or something's going on with these modern day vehicles. where your body intelligently already has these bells and whistles that I like to say. And vehicles mimic, all technology mimic our technology, because you cannot deny the perfection of how a soul can incarnate into conscious form. Soul, consciousness, formation. Soul, divine feminine. Consciousness, divine masculine. Formation. The lesson of seeking your highest self is to be inseparable between the triad of this experience. And being the one is the activation of the inner truth of what Christ or Joshua could not speak in public, beyond the allegories of what other people were speaking of, for fear of disconnecting an inner truth that can always be attained within self, for self, and by self. Interesting enough, I've trained in this esoteric style of Kung Fu since 1989, for a couple of decades. It's been a beautiful journey because this style of Kung Fu, well, they call it one of the three sisters of China, because there's over 200 styles of Kung Fu. And Tai Chi, almost the entire world knows about Tai Chi, but few people know the other two sisters, which they call the three sisters. Xing Yi and Bagua. Bagua, a lot of people are starting to know about. It's the 8-triagram boxing. You see it a lot with the I Ching, or the Book of Changes, the science behind Bagua. In Chinese medicine, a lot of practitioners understand that there is an entire system of Bagua acupuncture using the 8 triagrams theory. So there are different branches of Bagua. There's a martial side to it, which I've been fortunate to have trained under. And then there's Xing Yi Chuan, which Xing Yi means shape of the heart mind. Shape meaning embody, right? Or to physically shape, you know. Your dragon body in Xing Yi. They would say to form and to create a dragon body, which is part of the construct of the temple being inseparable with the aliveliness of the fascial tissue and the energetics between the ethers, right? Heaven, they would say heaven, the ethers, the energy of the sun, and the soil, the soul, the earth, the magnetism. It's one's ability to manipulate energy for health, wealth, self-defense, and a remembrance of what it's like to bring back and return to your inner power. By remembering in this incarnation, if you're not already, as to how can you tap into the inner technology, inner biology of your body, which opens up and unravels the 12 meridians. Xing Yi Chuan is the only system that has a 12 animal system. You can invest an entire life. I can invest an entire life training in 1, 2, or 3 animals and still end up probably requesting to reincarnate so I can actually go back to this training so I can continue to unravel. So it's a 12 animal system, 12 disciplines in Xing Yi Chuan, 12 systems in Chinese medicine. Just like you have 12 months out of the year, you have 12 astrologies or 12 zodiacs that are closest to us that have been attributed to what? To altering, manipulating, and enhancing our energetics and our experiences. And many argue that there's a hidden 13th. Well, the hidden 13th is you. It's irrelevant if it's a physical location. What's relevant is that you are all 12. Maybe trying to reinvent the wheel, massage, fire, you're the horse, right? Yeah, I've been a sage my whole life, you know what I'm saying? But this is the year that I'm supposed to like do things that are a lot more ravishing than before. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you that there's an energetic exchange where I'm seeing things that are making me more lively because the world is becoming more lively. Nothing that I did different, except that the entire world, as they become more conscious, actually brings me to life in a sense where I'm creating videos where maybe 3 years ago I would have never dared to do such a thing. It would have been irrelevant for me. I would have felt like, I guess that would have been my ego speaking. I would have felt like it's a waste of time if the person's not training with me one-on-one. It's too intelligent of a system. I'm so humbled to have been training since the year of 13, since I was 13 years old, and I'm still unraveling possibilities. So what the heck is this gonna do? It's gonna just irritate me by getting silly responses from people who don't want to either do the work, or they just get triggered and they don't want to see why they're being triggered and blah, 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 blah. But you know what? Never mind. If Joshua did what he was able to do during times where people were the most densest, in a very sick patriarchal times. And now it looks like it's not as sick as before. It's because it's like elder, dead sick. It's like it's time to put the sick patriarchy to rest. So hence comes Sophia consciousness. There's plasma fields between Yeshua and Sophia that were never separated. But in our experiences, we're experiencing separation. I might make a part 2 because it'll unravel so many other possibilities. But if you go into, I think it's the New Testament, but where Jesus, or the biblical Jesus in the New Testament, where he was, where the nails were inserted into him, right? Many scholars argued that it was either the palms of the hands or here, right, between the humerus and the ulnar bone, between these two, what do you want to say, tendons per se. But regardless, one of the 12 channels happens to be the pericardium channel, and this one actually for thousands of years is called the fire point of the pericardium channel. And believe it or not, this is the pericardium channel, releasing let go. Right? So even if whether he was crucified here or there, but the network that was attacked, right, by the alleged attackers, they attacked his pericardium. If you understand the pericardium from, if you understand the pericardium through anatomy and physiology, it's the same. It's very similar in a sense in traditional Chinese medicine. It's bilayer tissue that surrounds the heart. It's the heart protector, the protector of the crown. And then where he got crucified, or on his feet, whether it's in the front of the feet or the sides of the feet, that's where I want to make another video. But you can attribute each point in the feet and the points in the hands, even them stabbing him in his spleen per se, in his spleen area, spleen pancreas area. They're precisely an unraveling of a story that aligns with other truths and perspectives that has existed minimally 5,000 years when it comes to the health and healing arts, again, from a Chinese medical system, both esoterically and modern. To discuss the feet and the hand connection, which takes to the higher level of intelligence of traditional Chinese medicine, which is rarely spoken about, is the 8 extra meridian channels. These are channel pathways that historically do not have points. You cannot access them through points. But in more modern evolution of Chinese medicine, they started to attribute points to allow the practitioner to tap in to a person's fate, destiny, script as far as their DNA and genetics is concerned, as far as is it my fate to die with cancer, as an example, or is it my destiny to heal from cancer? And to tap into that, or those sets of possibilities, you bring upon the conversation of the 8 extra meridian channels. So you have your 12 primary channels, and you have your 8 extra meridian channels. And to open up and unravel the 8 extra meridian channels, actually one of the key codes is to understand Christ Sophia consciousness. Most people only have the mindset to just pay attention to Christ for another 2,000 years, bruh. Like maybe this is your life where you can actually see that one person, right? One pawn, an entire chess piece. Nothing moves if the pawn doesn't make the first move. Maybe you're the one that can start making a connection that you've been itching to make the entire time. And it may not be anything related to me. Hopefully I'm initiating and sparking new possibilities versus judging, versus condemning, versus I don't know what the heck is in your mind. But remember, whatever's in your mind, just as it was to me, has to be cleansed, and I've been the one that used to be able to receive that as an empath, as a dark empath, medium, you name it. All the labels and titles got tiring because it's actually being human. It's actually being human. And now the challenge has been to simply be the mirror and realize that if the cup is not filling into me, and yet I'm feeling something from a patient or a client that I'm working with, right? Or I'm getting blasted on this video because I'm mentioning Christ. If I'm receiving judgment, you already broke one of the cardinal rules, bro. that means it has nothing to do with me. It bounces right back to you. See, the person that you create in your mind about me right now as you speak, my hair, wind, whatever you see in me. However, which way you're seeing me right now, it's irrelevant to me. If or when you're ready to jump and open up enough, then you can see that all I'm attempting to do is how I play symphony, how I work with myself, and how I align to people who are willing to be in complete coherence with me for their inner journey. As when another person's inner journey that's around my tiny ass little circle, maybe like a dot. I mean, I don't know if I have a circle. No, but you know what I'm saying. Circle's tiny, bro. But whoever I choose and allow into my circle, obviously it's like a yin and yang component. If the person's expanding, then obviously it feeds me. If the person is digressing, I now understand my inner alchemy where it's going to help to expand my inner knowing. It's a choice that you make every single day. So you have a choice to say, I'm going to sit and live and die, I don't care what anybody has to say, with Christ consciousness, or you can actually start to cross-integrate the healing arts with what Christ was trying to show you, about your energetic pathways. The last part is that Christ and the crucifixion is the genetic blueprint, remembering people of the sickness of what, I don't mean individually, of what the collective has been experiencing. And for me to talk about that, I think I'm gonna have to do a part 2, because I'm gonna have to discuss it to use, again, a way of reflecting and getting the message across with the 12 meridian passageways and the 8 extra meridians. Now, quite lengthy of a video. Look out for part 2. I have to actually make it though. Yo.